This is a big box. A while ago I found this epic PC case called the AZZA Cube, and today we're going to move all parts from this PC, which is my current one, into this amazing unique case. Now for some reason I thought I was gonna have to build the whole case myself, but the only thing it comes with is a few screws and then some cables of the fans on the inside. So this is the case we will have to take apart. So let's remove all these side panels first so we have a clear view on what we're working with. So this case has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 RGB fans, and then these strips on the side are also RGB. So you have a choice, either you link all these cables to your motherboard or you use this RGB controller that comes with the case and can be controlled with this remote. I quickly connected an extra cable to my power supply, so we just plug it in. Let's turn on the power supply and then let's see what happens when we start the PC. Oh, there we go. The LEDs definitely work. Now let's open this case here so we can take everything out of it and then start building this one. Are you looking for new emotes? Then the new emote maker from Onto.tv is perfect for you. After choosing your starting character, you can customize it further to create a character that looks very similar to you. When you're done customizing, simply click on generate emote and then you will be able to select the emotes you want to buy. The more you select, the cheaper it gets per emote. If you're interested, then go to Onto.tv or click the first link in my description to start creating your own emotes today. I'm gonna remove everything from the motherboard, including the memory, because I want to see if everything is still in a good condition. I want to clean some stuff, and I also want to reapply the thermal paste of the CPU with the liquid cooler, because when I built this PC I did use the pre-applied thermal paste of NZXT, and my CPU temperatures also were a bit too high, so I think reapplying thermal paste definitely wouldn't hurt. As I said before, I'm not a pro PC builder, so if you see me making any mistakes, please put it in the comments. I definitely won't be salty. I appreciate every help I can get. By the way, if you want to see end results of any builds I'm doing, including this PC here, you can follow me on Instagram, because there I post all my stuff that I build and also stuff that I'm buying. Most of the products you see right there are products that I used in videos, and those are probably on my Instagram too. So if you're interested in that, definitely follow me there. I would greatly appreciate it. And the last part of this disassembling is taking out the CPU, which does need to be cleaned. So the way you do this is by using rubbing alcohol, I think that's what it's called in English, and that way you can get it extremely clean. Now next I'm gonna remove the dust from these fans and especially from this radiator. Then I'm gonna remove the cooling paste from this cooling block, and after that we can put everything in the case. Finally, it's a lot more work than expected, but it's kind of fun. I'm almost ready with cleaning all this stuff. Alright, everything we need to build the PC is on the table, except for the CPU. I didn't trust myself, I thought I would drop it. Let's start with that so we don't mess up all these pins here. One corner of the CPU socket will have an arrow on it, and the same thing counts for the CPU itself. And you always want to make sure that you align those two when dropping your CPU into the socket. The CPU you just saw me install is the Ryzen 9 3900X, and it's an amazing CPU for editing. The encoding is extremely fast. Plus, because the encoding is fast, it's also good for streaming if you're not using your NVENC chip. However, most people do use their NVENC chip with their NVIDIA graphics card, so the CPU is not really gonna be used for that. But the main thing I use it for is editing and gaming. It also comes with the Ryzen CPU cooler. It looks much bigger in real life than it does on pictures. But we're gonna use this NZXT liquid cooler, which is this one right here, but I will talk about this in a minute. Let's put in the memory now. It's G.Skill Trident Z Neo, completely RGB, and in total it's 64 gigabytes. I think the RGB of the memory sticks is going to complement the RGB of the whole case extremely well. And looking at it now, I think the all black design of the motherboard is going to look great in the all black design plus the RGB of this case. I just think cable management is going to be a pain since there's nothing to connect it to. The top segment is where your motherboard goes with everything on it, and then this is just all for cables. You just stuff them all inside and I think that's the strategy here. So next it's time for the storage. The first one is this Aorus NVMe Gen 4 SSD, and it's an extremely fast one. However, the only thing that's a pity is the color, since it doesn't really complement my case and my motherboard. I know I could probably take it apart and then paint it, etc. That's a learning journey for another time. The read speed is rated up to 5000 megabytes per second and the write speed up to 4400. The other SSD is a Samsung 970 EVO. It's about half as fast as the other SSD, since this is not a Gen 4. However, the speeds are definitely fast enough at 2500 megabytes per second. One of them is going to be my system drive and the other one is the one I'm going to be editing from. And then next it's time to put our liquid cooler on top of the CPU. There is a backplate that we need to add to the motherboard here, and then we can add these two handles on the top side and these will hold the pump. So everything besides our GPU is installed on the motherboard, so we can start placing everything in the PC. Finally. We've got a problem already. I'm just fitting the motherboard here. It isn't connected yet, but I was scared about the radiator not fitting, and I was right. This radiator is 280 millimeters long, and the maximum you can use with this case is 240. So as a result, the screws here and here are further apart than the screws here and here. So yeah, that's kind of a problem, but I'm gonna try something. I'm only gonna use the two screws in the middle, but those at the bottom there, and then I'm gonna see if it's sturdy enough. We can always use the stock cooler from the CPU, so we're gonna be able to finish this build. Alright, I think it kind of worked. As you can see, the radiator is still a bit loose on the top side, but the bottom of the radiator is connected with these two screws here. I'm using quite a bit of force here to be able to move it. I'm really happy I can use this radiator. Look at how sick the inside of this case looks. Let's connect the motherboard to the case. So the motherboard has been attached. I'm just gonna take out these two back plates, because then we can connect our GPU. It's not gonna be easy with these tubes sitting in the way and the case being pretty small, but it all should fit, so let's try if we can make it work. I heard the click, and maybe we can position these tubes behind the graphics card. I think this should be pretty good, although it's pushing against the radiator now. Let's attach this screw again. I gotta be honest, I was excited for the case, but in real life it looks even better. Even the back is perfect. The back plate fades perfectly with the back material of the case. Let's see how well we can access the inside. The power supply is a Corsair RM650X. I'm gonna connect all the cables now, because otherwise when I put this inside of the case, it's gonna be very hard. Okay, the last one is the CPU power cable. I'm gonna put the power supply inside the case, and I think it's gonna float like this because we need to attach it here towards the top. So this case consists of two parts: the top where we have all the components, and then the bottom for the power supply and then the cable management. The NZXT cooler needs two cables to be connected. One of them is a simple USB cable, and the other cable has three different endings. The first one is a very short one that should be plugged in as the CPU fan. The second one is a SATA cable, so that has to be connected directly to a cable from the power supply, as this will supply the cooler with power to pump liquids through these cables and then back to the pump. Now the third part of this cable is this right here, and this will allow us to connect four fans to it. I'm going to connect the four fans on the front to it, and there are only two ways for the cables to go from there to the top side. One of them is this hole here, and the other one is the same hole here, but you can't really see it. So the cable needs to go to the bottom and then come up through this hole here, and then it needs to be plugged into one of these USB sockets. We can just tuck the cable under the motherboard here for some clean cable management. This is one of the parts I'm still kind of struggling with when it comes to PC building, because now four of these fans will be connected to the pump, so I guess my CPU temps will decide how hard these are working, but then this fan will be connected to the motherboard, so I'm not really sure how the controlling of all the fans will work exactly. Maybe you can tell me in the comments, or I will find out afterwards. These two fan connectors are from the two fans on the top here, and I'm going to try to hide them here on the top of the liquid cooler. Maybe I will need to use some tape later, and then they can come down like this to the bottom segment. Let's connect these fans to the cable from the liquid cooler, because then we can start connecting all the power supply cables to the components. I'm going to zip tie these all together because I feel like this case is going to be a mess. These cables here are for the power button and for the power on and off LED, and I'm also gonna route them from the bottom to the back hole here and then plug them in. Then the other one is the cable for the power button, and then I guess my fifth case fan is going to have to be connected to this fan 2 connector. I'm going to change the orientation of this one fan because that way the cables coming out of the fan are towards the back of the case, which will allow for much cleaner cable management. Next, I'm gonna route the big power cable for the motherboard through this first hole, and then, like always, awkwardly try to connect it to the motherboard. While we are at it, we can add the cables to the GPU too. So let's try to connect it here. Now the last thing we need to connect is the cables for the lights of the fans, because the cables we connected before was for rotating the fans themselves. All these cables and the controller are for the lighting effects. So let's connect them to the power supply. And now I realize we forgot to connect the CPU cable, so let's connect it like this. We can just do it through here because this cable will be hidden when we connect this back plate back here again. Speaking of the back plate, we can just attach it right away because I think we are done with all the cables. I really hope I didn't forget anything. Now, before attaching the side panels and looking at the final result, I want to make sure that everything is working. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of scared to turn it on, but here we go. I can hear the I/O pump already. The RGB of the RAM is working, so that's good too. The fans of the GPU are spinning. So far nothing is happening on the screen, but I'm hearing a few beeps. You know what, before doing any more troubleshooting, I'm just gonna restart it. Oh, never mind, the starting screen just showed up. So it seems like everything is working. Now, before testing the lights, we need to add all the side panels, and then I can install this PC in my current setup. Guys, the final result of this build looks absolutely stunning. You can find more pictures of it on my Instagram, and please tell me in the comments what I should build next. I'm thinking about building a PC where I custom paint all the parts. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button because it helps a lot for the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day.